It's an exciting time, certainly, and especially this current period. It really is changing at a frantic rate. You know, if you look back over the lifetime of cars, nothing compares to the last 5-10 years in terms of adoption of new technology that we're seeing. Almost monthly, new things are coming out that are somewhat head spinning, but more exciting and more influential in how we have to manage maintenance and upkeep.
Yeah, no doubt. I know that speaking both from the aftermarket side of the service industry as well as the OE side, I like the way you put it. It's opportunity, and I think those that get it, they're hip to getting the training. They're going to stay cutting edge with the equipment and tools. This shouldn't be another spell. Like, Greg, we go back in time. I remember way back. It was some of my mentors, that I had, late 80s, early 90s. And I had some of the old timers back then. They perfected the carburetor skill set.
Right.
And were upset about fuel injection. And it's like, as a youngster, I knew we have to gravitate to change. That's our industry.
Yeah, we have to evolve.
Ben, I think you'll agree. You've been in the industry for a while. May I ask you, what are some of the challenges that you have seen? If I can, we've got a lot of shop operators listening, that you may see in the aftermarket. You know, you represent North America. You're dealing with aftermarket service facilities. Are folks more measured to the opportunity, or are you hearing, you know what, I think I'm going to hang my hat in?
It's a mix. I mean, it can be frightening, obviously. You know, you kind of alluded to it a minute ago in terms of having to upskill yourself as a technician in the past. It was a relaxed climb. You know, you got your stripes. You learned about the basics of mechanics, and you learned as you went along in a lot of cases. But cars weren't changing at that much speed. So, you know, you could rely on your foundation skill set and pick things up here or there. You know, now that's not going to be relevant for today and certainly the future. We've got to really help technicians and encourage them to upskill as quickly as the landscape is changing. And that, again, it comes back to opportunity. You can't shy away from this, and unfortunately there's many tools and information available to give the opportunity for their upskilling, but staying still isn't an option in the current climate and environment.
Yeah, that's a good point you make. You know, Greg, when we talk about the last 20, 30 years, let's just go 80s, 90s, early mid-2000s. We did have change, but it wasn't at this pace.
No, not at all.
Had I thought we'd be working with controlled area networks and modules that communicate, like your left mirror could be causing a fuel delivery issue.
Right.
When you say, Ben, when you're talking about how we have leaped forward, that's what we're discussing. And it's neat to hear you say that there are great operators throughout the country, because at the end, it's going to serve the consumer better that are keeping up, with the technology. Let me ask you this, Ben. I asked quite a few of our guests that are in the technology space. We had the largest aftermarket Tesla service provider. He's here locally. We asked him the same question. What do you see as immediate need for skill set for an automotive technician that is entering the industry today? What do you see that they really need to hone in on?
So their understanding of diagnostic capabilities, their understanding of their blind spots and opportunities. I mean, it's interesting you got feedback from Tesla experts, because we've done surveys throughout the market, and one of the opportunities that's going missing at the moment is a lot of technicians fear about dealing with electric vehicles. And there's a step process that you need to get comfortable before you can even approach making income and revenue off of that, and that is around the safety around electrification and electric vehicles especially. It's a high voltage car, and that comes with certain risks that aren't on the traditional ICE models. But it's to learn about how to maintain those vehicles is something that would differentiate yourself from many others out there. So instead of being fearful from that, learn about the safety of how to deal with these, and then these vehicles, and then learn how to maintain them. That's something that I think would really elevate technicians coming into the market today.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the safety. I think traditionally we could say there have been advancements at a certain stride with technology, Greg.
Yeah.
But like safety, those basic points were relatively safe. Like hybrids came about, and yes, we knew about, voltage battery concerns and, the orange pigtails and the orange harness, if you're dealing with that. But Ben, you make a very good point. I mean, I could see some of the old timers saying it because it's just a negative block. Maybe they know too much, but the youngsters should be embracing that, and I don't think they should have that fear set, if you will, is perhaps maybe a trained mind that may be burnt out. Ben, I mean, there's some of that going on in our industry. Let's get right to it. ZF does offer that training. I know that Francisco Moreno. A great trainer. In fact, we met him out at Apex. ZF offers some great training regarding the basics for electrification.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned high voltage training. It's especially important in the U.S. where regulations are lighter than maybe other regions. And it's extremely important to go through that step. We offer training. It's a 3-level training certification on that. We also do training classes focusing on electrification of the chassis, teaching technicians to focus on how the systems are connected, changing technology, the way parts are made, making sure they're putting the like for like or at that level quality back in the car when maintaining it. We have a platform called ProTech. That's a program designed for technicians to access all of these topics and more, as well as OE service information whenever and wherever they are. It's available in all digital formats. And we're dedicated to working with technicians and supplying those resources really to make sure they can keep their business operating and growing, importantly.
Yeah. Give us a website for those that are listening. They may cut off the live show here real quick. What website can we send them to regarding this training?
We can go to zfaftermarket.com, and that will give you plenty of information.
Awesome. We'll make sure to have that in show notes. You don't have to fear the technology. I think it's like anything else. You need to surround yourself. Here at EVIT, I know that they also get into the arena of both hybrids and electrification. Of course, it's slow coming, right? We at this level must learn the basics from, we've still got to understand a 4-stroke engine, right? And what that's all about, and fuel delivery and air, fuel, and fire, that sort of thing. Let's get into how ZF has determined that there are critical areas of focus to get us there for the industry to maintain traction for this future. Cases. Talk to us about why cases, CASES, and no, not multiple transfer cases.
Right.
This is an acronym. Of course, Ben Smart's going to get us connected. Why is it so important for ZF North America, and globally for that matter, to have the industry really pay attention in these categories?
Yeah, maybe just to go through what the acronym stands for. Cases is connected, A for autonomous, S for shared mobility, E for electrification, and S for sustainability. And the reason we're focusing on those topics is they're the areas that we need to focus on to future-proof people's businesses and to really inform and train them so that they can grow and maintain their service to the customer. And it's important for our industry and for technicians, industry professionals, because it gives you a roadmap to future-proofing their business. If you can get knowledgeable in these areas, you can expose blind spots, as I mentioned before, areas that you might be a bit weaker in, and importantly, expose opportunities ahead of the curve, ahead of your competitors, keep you relevant in the market. And we've identified these particular areas as the areas that we want to drive attention towards.
Yeah, you said a very, very powerful phrase. I don't care if somebody is selling flowers on the corner or working under hood with technology. I'm sure there are advancements in technology with flowers.
Right.
Future proofing. If you own a small business, specifically as an automotive service center, and you're not consistently reviewing that, which typically centers around not just the network that you keep, but the training and technology, future proof. I'd write that down, put it on your board, see it every day. This whole case is outlined. Let's talk about this connected vehicle. Can you explain to consumers that may be listening, what is this over-the-air technology that enables a reprogramming, if you know, like we're seeing it in the Tesla arena? Talk to us about that. What is this over-the-air technology?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the easiest way to explain it is through a product that's kind of being launched, one that's called ProConnect. What that is, it's a connectivity platform. It connects vehicles with the cloud and also with the traffic infrastructure. And that helps really when you're deploying advanced driver assistance systems and looking even further forward, autonomous vehicles. These vehicles, they have to be able to network really quickly with the outside world in a very wide variety of ways, and enormous amounts of data have to be exchanged very quickly. And for example, a product like ProConnect is a platform that enables higher networking capability. We launched that actually at CES a couple of weeks ago in Vegas, and we had a partner there called Hexagon. They demonstrated a high-precision satellite navigation using that platform, which made the vehicle completely automated driving and very exact in its positioning.
That's incredible.
And one of the benefits and one of the concerns, rightly, is when you're connecting to the cloud and traffic infrastructure is security. So that's another area of high security requirements that you need to install within these offerings. And another thing that the platform can do is it can communicate with roadside infrastructure as well. For example, traffic lights. It can see ahead what's going on, whether it's a red, green, or yellow light. It can connect to other vehicles on the road, such as emergency vehicles, so it can warn people before sight of oncoming emergency vehicles. It can connect in the environment to understand whether there's crashes or traffic that's unsighted, so giving the vehicle a lot of warning ahead of time. So it's really connecting all those digital services around. I mean, one of the really useful parts that we can see in the future will be parking. So it can tell you where there's free spots in real time instead of you kind of traveling around cities trying to find a free spot. So things that are enabling a far better experience for the user and a safer one.
It's incredible. We go from how we as consumers communicated with our center stack, basically our needs were, get me hot air, cold air, play the song I want, horn works, brakes work, cruise control, and now we are going to... So if you're in New York City and you don't like those potholes, right, stay tuned because
Absolutely.
ProConnect via ZF is going to basically forewarn you. Now, I don't know about... If you can pull that off in New York, I mean, that's
impressive.
That would be impressive with those
potholes. I mean, the reality is the more and more connected cars there are, that will be a reality because, of course, what's happening is it's gathering data so that if several cars are going down a certain street where there is potholes, that will be picked up by intelligent parts, by this platform. And it not only would it be communicating to cars coming to warn them of that, but it will also communicate back to governments and municipalities. Now, whether they act on that is not... It's not up to us, but we can really tell them about it.
Don't expect a speedy
pothole guy to go out there.
to come out there, or gal to come out there for sure. I love the technology. I think it's just incredible and it's happening now. It's not like, well, that's not going to be around until my granddaughter is, I mean, it's here, which is really cool. On the lines of ProConnect and the great technology there, AI is a big thing. Some would say, like, this is the year for artificial intelligence, especially with the recent light of Microsoft's potential to invest $10 billion in open Chat GPT. Of course, we had a show last week diving into that. Tell us about ZF's Pro AI computer. You guys have like a supercomputer. I'm so anxious to hear about that. Yeah. And that AI, which kind of, I guess, would work in with more people that are connected. We're going to have to monitor those data sets and manage that. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool, supercomputer. It's quite a good phrase.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what that means is instead of having separate CPUs and separate computers on board with various capabilities, the Pro AI is one supercomputer, one device, and it can support multiple domain-based applications. So whether that be ADAS or your infotainment system or chassis function, that can all be stacked together. And that really means that you can combine different configurations from multiple suppliers, because of course there's not one supplier that's building one vehicle, and that's something that's really cool, and to accommodate the upcoming technologies and the demand of those technologies, in terms of the hundreds of millions of lines of code. As you mentioned, we've boosted the new Pro AI has boosted computing power 50%, and the expectation for us is 30 to 40% of new vehicle platforms will have this domain-based need as early as 2025.
Wow! Wow!
This offering, this offering's fully ready and looking to the future. We've already got orders for 14 million units.
My goodness! Well, congratulations. That's a big deal
for sure.
But let's step back. You're saying that we're headed to VinDomain.com type needs because we're just going to be so connected. Wow. We're going to need our own .coms for our vehicle. Is that what I heard?
I mean, they'll have their own IPs. Absolutely.
IPs wise, yeah. Yeah, which would make sense. They would have to be protected. And I don't think you could do that in bulk at some cloud storage center. It would have to be
all individual.
My goodness, boy, we got a lot of homework to do in the service base.
You better hurry up.
We thought we were big shots protecting our Wi-Fi when we're working under hood. Look what we have to look forward to. All right, so that's covering the connected, which is awesome. Hey, I had a question. I know that legislation and regulation is always a bumpy area. We know it's got to be in place and everyone's got to be protected. But do you see a connected vehicle? If Greg is driving his Toyota pickup, because he loves his Toyota pickup.
I was going to say, what? Go ahead.
And let's say, we got a vehicle that's got connected features and he can communicate. He loves that feature. Like the airbag scenario, can Greg shut that off? Will the consumer be able to say, hey, I don't want to communicate with anything? Or do you see this being mandated? I know it's a tough question.
Yeah, I mean, it would only be my opinion. I believe that some would be mandated, such as I don't think you'd be able to shut airbag or particular safety options off that would be a risk to user. Or risk to outside users, certainly. But I think the other part of it will be very much unique and user managed, much like, the phones that we use or the laptops we use. We decide what apps to download. We decide what to use. So I think as long as it moves away from the safety aspect, then I think it would be very adaptable and agile to the user spec and to what they decide to share or use. So I would say it's probably going to be a mix of the two.
It makes sense. I think safety is it's like we see now with ADAS systems, advanced driver awareness systems that are in play. There's no choosing there for the most part. It's all safety. And, we mentioned this on the show, Ben, often it like one would say, why all this technology? Why Well, when you consider there are 47 some odd thousand, I think that's the number, don't quote me exactly, road deaths on, on just U.S. roads globally, it's huge. These systems are designed to keep us safe and safer. So keep that in mind. All right. So autonomous, everyone is like this FSD. In fact, we've got another individual coming on the show in February who's an authority on full self-driving, which is, depending on where you sit on what side of the fence for Tesla, is all the rage or not. But this autonomous we are seeing, and we're seeing it primarily in the fleet side of the industry. Could you talk to us? I know you represent North America. I'd like to cross the pond and get on over to Europe. Is Europe leading the way compared to the U.S. regarding autonomous platforms? Or can I throw in China, and China rules everything regarding autonomous? I wanted to probe, Ben, where do we stand compared to the rest of the world, specifically Europe and China?
I would say the U.S. is pretty far ahead in certain aspects of it. I mean, a lot of autonomous drive tech in the U.S. has been pretty standard for a while. It's just not considered autonomous anymore. So, technology such as adaptive cruise control, emergency brake assist, lane assist, these are all elements and levels of autonomous. It's just that we're so used to it in the U.S. that we don't consider it that way. Now, in China, a lot of the domestic vehicles there, it's not so standard, and that's why I think there's probably an elevated interest in this autonomous technology. But I don't believe that they would be considered ahead. Europe's a bit of a different kettle altogether. Certain aspects of the control there and the infrastructure there make it in some areas ahead, some areas behind. I mean, for example, the standardization of backup cameras in the U.S. is miles ahead of anywhere else. I think there's a different opinion, and it's maybe a bit cheeky of me by not being a native U.S. Citizen, but in the U.S. there's a driving culture here. There's a strong pleasure in driving and to be in control of that trip, the great American road trip. And that loses a bit of excitement if you're trying to sell the car's going to take all that pleasure away from you driving from one point to another. And maybe that culture isn't as strong, should we say, in China. And I certainly feel that from spending some time here now. And that's something that's ingrained into the hearts and souls of many Americans. So that has an impact as well.
Well said, well observed. There's no doubt about it. In fact, some would suggest that we're at a crossroads, this huge upheaval about the freedom behind the wheel and all of these things that some would believe we don't need. And, one of the things that we ask a lot of our guests is this whole car culture thing. Is it going away? And the sentiment, for the most part, with all demographics, even my young Gen Zs and my boomers on the other end, feel like there will always be something to tinker with. And but it is an observation, Ben, for sure. Unlike Norwegia, Scandinavia, Sweden, which has to be a bicycle culture. Right, it's a different vibe. There's a whole different culture there. So I want you to visit aftermarket.zf.com. There you can find a ton of technical know-how, and I say know-how respectfully. A lot of you saying, well, we've been to a lot of websites with know-how. We didn't find anything howing and knowing. But ZF Aftermarket leads the space. They take a lot of research and development. And I have to mention an impressive trainer by the way of Francisco Moreno, who is training and is out there teaching a lot of these classes. You got to respect an individual like that. He's very passionate, Ben, about what he does.
Yeah, I know Francisco well, and he's a true asset to the ZF family. I mean, we have a great team of experienced trainers. They hold a variety of positions, whether it be like Francisco, installer facing, fleet flying doctors, remote assistants, but they all have one thing in common, which is they're gearheads at heart. And it's important that they are, because they've got to speak the same language of the automotive technicians that they're talking to. You know, there's nothing worse than speaking to someone that's not on your level and is just reading from a book. You know, these people are experienced. They're either have been technicians in their past lives or highly qualified in certain areas of the business. And what's great about them is not only is their experience and they speak on the same level, but they give clarity, supporting tools, so that the people we train can spread and transfer that information to their teams and their colleagues. But Francisco's a great example of one of the many passionate team members that we have here.
Yeah, that's awesome to know. A family of trainers that are connected, boots on the ground. That, you know, I just got to tell you, Ben, we've seen it in the service space where there's a sort of Madison Avenue marketing disconnect. Like, we need trainers, and this is what I admire about ZF. In fact, internationally, we do have folks that listen from all over the globe regarding the podcast. And so diagnosis and repair, technical information, cataloging. And, you know, we're going to dive into electrification. But can you talk to us about e-fluids? Because there are many that are seeing the need for this application. What do you have under the ZF brand for e-fluids here in North America?
Yeah, so I mean, we've recognized for electric vehicles they need different fluids as well as hybrid, and you know we've launched a full range of those for driveline, and the reason is they demand more torque and force than a conventional ICE or combustion engine. So we've done a lot of research into this area, and the new kind of e-fluids, the lifeguard e-fluids, really drive to those standards. They're specifically designed for electric engines or power electronics, and the formulation is exact for those, instead of trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, as we should say. So, you know, transmission efficiency is maximized, temperature control is optimized, and battery failures eliminated. That's kind of the tagline of it all. And that really maintains the longevity of the vehicle that you're putting those fluids in.
In Europe, my understanding is your ZF is involved in this sort of electrification and autonomous by way of shuttle buses. Can you educate us a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple of different options in terms of autonomous shuttles. The one we've just launched, again, we mentioned CES. Something else we mentioned, we launched in CES a couple of weeks ago was the world premiere of our next generation shuttle, fully autonomous. So where as we spoke before, where the legislative framework permits, I'll get that word right in the end. It's capable of maneuvering in mixed traffic environments without a safety steward, so fully autonomous. And that's something that we now offer, as I said, in mixed framework as well as contained, two different shuttles. So one would be contained in a non-mixed environment, such as a campus or a theme park or an airport, and then one that would be mixed use, so moving around where there would be high instances of normal cars on the road as well as pedestrianized areas. And we mentioned Pro AI before, and that's at the core of the software stack with these shuttles. As you can imagine, the amount of data transfer that's needed to make these vehicles operate safely is massive. So we just partnered with a company called Beep in Florida, and that's the first plan to deliver autonomous transport systems throughout different areas of the U.S. So we're pretty excited about that. And you know why we're really excited in the aftermarket is that these new vehicles will need servicing, and there isn't the infrastructure to build new servicing options for them. So inevitably, they will use existing infrastructure. And again, we're talking about opportunity, and this one might be a little bit further in the future. But the guys with bays that can modify and be capable of taking on multi-vehicle solutions there's certainly the demand for that out there in the future, because they won't be building a service structure just for shuttles. They will use what's there.
Yeah, I can see this evolving in that automated and autonomous driving. Anyone that's in the fleet business now, can you imagine what that fleet industry will look like in the future? Connecting with municipalities, connecting with all of the corporations that have a need for short distance shuttling. I think that I imagine that would start off as an immediate need, and eventually, as the technology goes, then there's the sort of California to Arizona. Trucking is a big deal. We joke around and say mechanics and truck drivers are going the way of the elevator man. Maybe we try not to take that too serious, but the trucking industry has got to be. There's got to be such a huge shakeup in that arena regarding both electrification and autonomous platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about future-proofing previously. One of the acquisitions ZF made a couple of years back, 18 months back, was a company called Wabco, which was a leader in CV technology, and that's really combined with the existing tech that we've got in ZF and made us a bit of a powerhouse in that area. We're the largest business now in the CV world for aftermarket. And there's some really interesting technology going on there. I think the world saw a lot of the autonomous tech really being implemented in passenger cars, but we're seeing actually it being accepted a bit quicker in the trucking environment. One of the things that we focused on, and I've just come back from the HDAW show in Dallas, which is the heavy-duty aftermarket show. We were introducing their ABS-I and trailer cast, and that's an ABS module that you can replace old ABS with an intelligent ABS when it comes in for replacement. So it means you can get the new technology even if you own a used trailer, and then linking that with a product we call trailer cast. Again, that then gives you visibility of how that trailer is reacting, gives you visibility of whether through the sensors whether braking needs replacing, whether the load and weight of the trailer is the same from where it originated to delivery. So you can check that the stock on board has not been manipulated or changed, as well as many other kind of areas of the trailer that need that can really benefit from real-time viewing and data feedback, especially when you've got large fleets.
ZF is not joking around when it comes to dealing with natural resources and so on under the sustainability category. We've got a few minutes. Ben, please educate us on that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's all about remanufacturing in this area. We've got sizable footprint of remanufacturing in our portfolio, whether it be transmissions, steering gears, ECUs, torque converters. I mean, I know we've only got a few minutes left, so I won't give the full list. But what's important is it's the correct understanding what remanufacturing is to gain true adoption in the market. I use these kind of three words to describe it. It's not just sustainability, but it's affordability and availability. And that kind of tripod of offering makes it interesting to the market. And it's to understand that you get a like-for-like OE product, tested the same way, same warranty, indistinguishable, but with an upside. The remanufactured products that I've mentioned, we can save over 80% of the original part because a lot of it is not susceptible to wear. And that's got a great impact on our environmental footprint, for the better. So the next steps for us is just investigating more and more options, finding solutions for the future tech we've talked about, such as battery remanufacturing or electric drive remanufacturing. So that's something we're really excited about, and we're really driving to get adoption in the market.
That is huge. Aftermarket.zf.com. Ben Smart with ZF. If you're ever in the Phoenix, Arizona area, our garage is your garage. We'd love to have you as an invited guest. Because there's nothing like the smell of a modern-day garage.
That's for
Agree.
Ben, it was such a short time. It went by fast. We're going to have you back on in the future. We'd like to follow up. I thank you so much for joining Wrench Nation.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, see ya.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep going. I mean, this technology is amazing. Just a real quick point on anything remanufactured. We did talk about ZF's movement there. They have been really good at it for many, many years. This is sustainability. So if you see a part out there that's remanufactured, don't get all weird about it. You can ask the right questions, but you are paying it forward by way of sustainability. So great show, Greg. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
As I tell you every week, be safe, hug each other, and never forget to hug a mechanic.